The launch facility buzzed with controlled chaos. Dr. Maya Chen stood at Gate 7, her royal blue flight suit crisp against the sterile white walls. She held her credentials in steady hands. A crew member stepped forward, blocking her path. His eyes moved from her face to her badge, then back again. The scanner beeped green. He didn't move. "This gate is for mission specialists," he said. Maya's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I am a mission specialist. Astrophysics Division." He studied her badge again, longer this time. Other passengers slowed, watching. The moment stretched. Maya felt their stares like pinpricks against her skin. "I'll need to verify this." He reached for his radio. The line behind her shifted uncomfortably. Someone coughed. Maya kept her shoulders square, her breathing even. She'd been here before. Different door, same doubt. "Verification code is right there," she said, pointing to the holographic seal. He squinted at it, pressed buttons on his tablet. The seconds felt heavy. Finally, reluctantly, he stepped aside. "Welcome aboard, Dr. Chen." She walked past him into the boarding tunnel, her heart pounding harder than it should. Through the windows the vessel gleamed, sleek, powerful, impossible. This was supposed to be her moment. Behind her she heard whispers. "The damage was already done. Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? And if you believe in second chances, hit that like button and subscribe for part 2. 3 months earlier, Maya sat in her apartment at 2 a.m. surrounded by glowing screens. Equations covered her whiteboard in burnt orange marker. Empty coffee cups formed a small city on her desk. Her research filled every corner. Propulsion system diagrams, thermal dynamics models, emergency override protocols. She'd spent 7 years developing safety mechanisms that didn't exist yet. Work that could save lives 30,000 feet above Earth. The email arrived at 2:47 a.m. Subject line, "Orbital launch opportunity." Maya read it 3 times before believing it. The space company wanted her aboard their next commercial launch. Not as passenger, as mission specialist. Her research had caught someone's attention. She called her mother despite the hour. "Baby, I knew they'd see it eventually," her mother said, voice thick with sleep and pride. "Your father would be so proud." Maya looked at the photo on her desk. Her father in his Air Force uniform, grinning beneath an F-16. He'd believed she'd touch the stars one day. He just didn't live to see it. "Let your work speak louder than their doubts," her mother continued. That phrase had carried Maya through every closed door, every dismissed grant proposal, every room where she was the only face like hers. She spent the next weeks preparing. Physical training at dawn, technical briefings at noon, equipment checks at night. The mission patch arrived in ivory and gold. She sewed it onto her flight suit herself, fingers trembling slightly. This wasn't just about her anymore. Every young black girl who dreamed of space would see this. Every scientist who'd been overlooked would feel this. The weight was crushing and beautiful at once. Launch day approached like a storm on the horizon. The cabin smelled like recycled air and expensive technology. Maya found her assigned seat near the center, stowing her tablet carefully. Around her, other specialists settled in, physicists, engineers, medical researchers, all chosen for this historic flight. Commander David Hayes entered, his presence commanding immediate attention. Salt and pepper hair, rigid posture, patches covering his mustard yellow flight suit. Former military pilot turned commercial space veteran. "Listen up," he announced. "Pre-launch brief in 5 minutes. Secure your gear." Maya pulled up her mission documents, reviewing the propulsion data she'd memorized. Beside her, a woman in her 50s extended her hand. Dr. Sarah Whitmore, biomedical research. Maya Chen, astrophysics. Sarah's eyebrows lifted slightly. "Oh, I didn't realize we had astrophysics on this flight." Before Maya could respond, Hayes began the briefing. He moved through safety protocols efficiently, pointing to crew members by name. He skipped over Maya twice. When he opened for questions, Maya raised her hand. "Commander, I noticed the propulsion coupling specs in the pre-flight report. The tolerance margins seem..." We follow automated system checks, Dr. Chen. His tone could freeze water. They're more reliable than human observation. A few crew members chuckled. Maya felt heat rise in her chest. I understand, but I've done extensive research on coupling stress under your research. Hayes smiled, but it didn't touch his eyes. Let me guess. Theoretical? 7 years of applied simulations, and this is practical spaceflight, not a university lab. He turned to the others. We trust the instruments. They've never failed us. The cabin went quiet. Maya gripped her tablet, data scrolling across the screen in neat columns. Numbers that could save their lives if anyone would listen. Hayes moved on to the next topic. Someone behind Maya whispered, barely audible, "Diversity hire." Laughter rippled softly. Maya stared straight ahead, jaw tight. Her tablet screen showed the coupling data. Stress points highlighted in ruby red. Warning signs no one wanted to see. Maya pressed her forehead against the viewport. Earth spread below in swirls of cobalt blue and white. From up here, borders disappeared. Problems seemed small. People seemed smaller. Inside her chest, anger and hurt wrestled for dominance. She'd prepared for this. Practiced responses, built armor around her competence. But preparation never made it easier. The hum of the engines vibrated through the hull, steady as a heartbeat. She matched her breathing to it. In, out, in, out. Control what you can control. She remembered her dissertation defense. 5 professors, 4 of them skeptical before she opened her mouth. She'd demolished their doubts with data, until even the harshest critic nodded with grudging respect. This was just another defense, another room of doubters, except here, 30,000 feet above Earth, the stakes felt infinitely higher. Through the viewport, clouds drifted past like cotton. Maya closed her eyes, seeing instead her father's face, his certainty that she belonged anywhere she chose to be, his absolute faith in her mind. They'll catch up eventually, he used to say. Smart always wins. But what if eventually came too late? What if their doubt cost lives? Maya opened her eyes. The mission patch on her sleeve caught the light, ivory and gold, pristine. She traced it with one finger. She hadn't come this far to be invisible. The vessel hummed around her. She pulled up her tablet again, reviewing the propulsion data, waiting, watching, ready for the moment they'd finally need her voice. 5 years ago, Maya met Dr. James Okafor at a symposium in Houston. He was a legend, Nigerian-American aerospace engineer who designed critical systems for 3 major space programs. When he approached her after her presentation, she'd nearly dropped her notes. That emergency override concept, he said. Develop it, she did. Under his mentorship, Maya spent countless hours in university labs, running simulations that most considered unnecessary. Why build emergency systems for failures that rarely happened? Because rare doesn't mean impossible, Dr. Okafor would say, his voice carrying the weight of experience. And impossible becomes probable when stakes are high enough. He taught her more than engineering. He taught her patience. How to present brilliance to people determined not to see it. How to keep working when grants got denied and doors stayed closed. They'll test you differently, he told her once over lukewarm coffee in his cluttered office. Not because you're less qualified, because you're more threatening. Dr. Okafor died 2 years ago. Heart attack at his desk, surrounded by the work he loved. Maya kept his final email framed above her workspace. Your research will save lives. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. This trip wasn't just professional validation, it was proof he'd been right. Proof that her family's sacrifices, her mother working double shifts to fund her education, her father's unwavering belief before cancer took him, hadn't been in vain. Beyond personal stakes, Maya carried something heavier. Every young black girl watching launch coverage, wondering if space was for people like them. Every overlooked scientist questioning whether excellence was enough. She'd uploaded her emergency override system to her personal drive before boarding. Just in case, Dr. Okafor's voice echoed. Preparation isn't paranoia. It's respect for the unpredictable, the vessel hummed. Maya checked her tablet again. The data still showed what it showed. Truth didn't change just because people refused to see it. 4 hours into the flight, Maya ran routine diagnostics on her tablet. The automated systems blinked green across the board. Everything nominal. She should have felt reassured. Instead, her instincts screamed. She pulled up the backup monitoring system, a secondary interface most specialists never accessed. Her fingers moved across the screen, drilling into propulsion coupling data. There, microfractures. Hairline stress points in the coupling joints. The automated checks read them as acceptable variance. Maya's research told her otherwise. She ran calculations silently, her pulse quickening. The fractures were spreading under thermal and mechanical stress. At current trajectory and engine output, they had approximately 6 hours before critical failure, 6 hours before the return trajectory became impossible. Before they'd be stranded in decaying orbit with no way home. Maya's mouth went dry. She double-checked her math. Triple-checked. The numbers didn't lie. Her fingers trembled slightly as she saved the data, organizing it into a clear presentation. Dr. Okafor's voice whispered in her memory. When you know something matters, speak. Even if your voice shakes, she stood, tablet in hand, and approached Commander Hayes. He was reviewing navigation displays with 2 other crew members, their conversation casual. Commander. Her voice came out steady. I need to show you something urgent. He glanced up, irritation flickering across his face. Dr. Chen, we're in the middle of... The propulsion coupling has microfractures. We have approximately 6 hours before catastrophic failure. The other crew members exchanged glances. Hayes's expression hardened. Our automated systems would have flagged that. They're reading it as acceptable variance. But my research shows these specific patterns lead to your research. He turned back to his display. Dr. Chen, we have protocols. Multiple redundant safety systems. If there was a real problem, we'd know. With respect, Commander, by the time your systems recognize it as real, it'll be too late to... Focus on your assigned tasks. His tone allowed no argument. We have this under control. Maya stood there, data glowing on her screen. Around her the vessel hummed peacefully. Normal, safe, doomed. She returned to her seat, numbers burning behind her eyes. 6 hours, now 5 hours and 57 minutes. Truth ticking downward like a countdown. Maya couldn't let it go. 30 minutes later, she approached Dr. Sarah Whitmore, who seemed less hostile than the others. Sarah, can I show you something? Sarah looked up from her biomedical readings, curious. Maya pulled up the propulsion data, explaining the fracture patterns, the stress progression, the thermal dynamics at play. I'm not an astrophysicist, Sarah said slowly, but this looks concerning. It is. We need to convince Hayes to... Convince me of what? Hayes appeared beside them, arms crossed. Maya turned, keeping her voice level. Commander, I'm not trying to undermine protocol. But these calculations are based on 7 years of research specifically on this type of failure. Mode, which has never happened in actual flight, because most missions don't push these thermal limits for this duration. This is a longer flight than... Dr. Chen. Hayes leaned closer, voice dropping. I have 30 years of flight experience. I've seen specialists panic over data anomalies that mean nothing. We have the best engineers on the ground monitoring everything. Ground control has a 15-second delay and can't access these secondary diagnostics. Enough. He straightened. I'll have our mission specialist review your findings. If there's a real concern, we'll address it. Until then, stand down. The mission specialist, an older white man named Dr. Peterson, reviewed Maya's data for 7 minutes. She watched his expression shift from dismissive to uncertain. It's within acceptable parameters, Peterson said finally. But Dr. Chen raises valid points. We should monitor it closely, Hayes nodded. Continuous monitoring. Automated alerts. Satisfied, Dr. Chen? It wasn't enough. Maya knew it wasn't enough. But she also knew that pushing harder would only cement their view of her as paranoid, hysterical, unqualified. "Yes, Commander." She returned to her seat. Around her, the crew relaxed back into their routines. Someone laughed at a joke. Another specialist took selfies with Earth in the background. Maya pulled up her tablet. The fractures continued spreading. 5 hours and 12 minutes. The calm felt suffocating, like air before lightning strikes. She opened her personal drive, looking at the emergency override system. Dr. Okafor's final gift. Insurance against the unpredictable. The vessel hummed peacefully. Everyone smiled, and the numbers kept climbing toward catastrophe. 3 hours and 47 minutes later, the alarm screamed. The vessel shuddered violently, throwing Maya against her harness. Red emergency lights flooded the cabin, washing everything in crimson. The peaceful hum became a grinding shriek of metal under impossible stress. Propulsion system failure. Someone shouted over the chaos. Hayes lunged for manual controls. His hands flew across the panel. Nothing responded. The coupling had fractured completely, exactly as Maya's data predicted. Too fast for gradual failure protocols. Too catastrophic for standard repairs. Around her, specialists gripped their seats. One woman sobbed openly. Another prayed in Spanish. The vessel tilted, losing its orbital trajectory. "Ground control, this is Odyssey 7. Hayes's voice cracked with desperation. "We have critical propulsion failure." "Repeat, critical failure." "Static," answered him. The communication array, dependent on the same power systems, flickered in and out. Maya's tablet screen went dark, then rebooted in emergency mode. Backup power only. She pulled up her calculations. At current trajectory decay rate, they had maybe 20 minutes before they couldn't correct course. 20 minutes before orbit became a one-way descent. Dr. Peterson stumbled toward Hayes. "Emergency protocols aren't responding. The automated systems can't compensate for this kind of, I know." Hayes slammed his fist against the console. The cabin tilted further. Equipment rattled. Someone screamed. Earth loomed larger in the viewports, beautiful and terrifying, pulling them down with implacable gravity. Maya sat perfectly still, her emergency override system waiting on her drive. The solution they'd refused to hear, the research they'd dismissed as theoretical. Hayes turned, his eyes wild, scanning the cabin. They landed on Maya. For one suspended moment, pride and survival instinct warred across his face. "Dr. Chen." His voice was barely audible over the alarms. Can you... The vessel shuddered again. Metal screamed. Oxygen warnings began to flash. Maya met his eyes, her tablet glowing with 7 years of dismissed expertise. With her father's faith and her mother's strength, and Dr. Okafor's final lesson, she opened her mouth to speak. The vessel drifted. Emergency power bathed everything in dim gold light. Maya's fingers hovered over her tablet, the solution glowing on her screen. Hayes stared at her, waiting. Around them, crew members held their breath. But something in his eyes, pride, hesitation, the last threads of doubt, kept him silent. "Commander." Dr. Peterson's voice trembled. "We need to decide now." Hayes looked away from Maya, scanning his dead controls, trying one more time to find another answer. Any answer that didn't require trusting the woman he'd dismissed 3 times. The oxygen reserve indicator ticked downward. 18 minutes until trajectory became irreversible. The cabin tilted further. Maya sat perfectly still, surrounded by chaos she'd predicted. The calculations that could save them waited in her hands. Dr. Okafor's voice echoed, "Sometimes you save people who don't want to be saved." "You do it anyway." She looked through the viewport. Earth filled the frame now, blues and whites swirling. 30,000 feet of atmosphere between them and home. Her mother's face flashed in her mind. Her father's uniform. Every sacrifice that brought her here. Not for this. Not to watch them fall because pride mattered more than survival. Sarah Whitmore grabbed Maya's arm. "Please, whatever you have, please." The word broke something. Maya nodded once, decision crystallizing. She stood, legs steady despite the tilting floor. The emergency override system, 7 years of late nights and dismissed grant proposals, was about to prove itself, not because they deserved it. Because it was right. Commander Hayes. Maya's voice cut through the panic like a blade. I can fix this. The cabin went silent except for alarms. Every face turned toward her. Hayes met her eyes, and this time the doubt was gone, replaced by desperate hope. The emergency override system I mentioned? I have it on my personal drive. It's designed specifically for catastrophic coupling failures. Is it tested? Hayes asked. In 7,000 simulations. Not in live conditions. Maya moved toward the main console. But it's our only option. Hayes stepped aside. No ceremony, no apology yet. Just survival instinct finally overriding ego. Maya plugged her tablet into the console. Her fingers flew across the interface, uploading the override protocols. The system was elegant, bypassing the fractured coupling entirely, rerouting power through secondary channels that standard protocols couldn't access. Dr. Peterson, I need you on thermal monitoring. She pulled up a secondary screen. Sarah, watch the oxygen reserves. Call out any changes. They moved without question. The dynamic had shifted completely. Maya's expertise, dismissed for hours, was now their lifeline. Commander, when I engage this, you'll have manual control again. But the response time will be delayed by 0.7 seconds. You'll need to anticipate. Hayes nodded, hands poised over controls. Tell me when. Maya checked the trajectory calculations one final time. 15 minutes left. The math had to be perfect. She thought of Dr. Okafor, of every late night in the lab preparing for a scenario everyone said would never happen. Engaging override in 3, 2, 1. She pressed the command. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. The vessel continued its sickening drift. Maya's pulse hammered. Then the systems responded. Lights flickered from red to amber. The grinding noise shifted to a steadier hum. Hayes's console came alive with data. I have control. His voice cracked with relief. Partial thrust restored. Around the cabin, crew members gasped. Someone sobbed. Maya kept her eyes on the readings, watching the override system compensate for the damaged coupling. It was working. Her research was working. Firing correction thrusters, Hayes announced. Everyone brace. The vessel shuddered, but this time with purpose. With power. With a future. Maya monitored every data point as Hayes worked the controls. The override system held, routing power through pathways that shouldn't have existed. Genius written in code validated by Crisis. Trajectory correcting, Dr. Peterson called out. We're stabilizing. The vessel's tilt began to ease. Slowly, incrementally, they climbed back toward proper orbit. Hayes's hands moved with practiced precision, but his eyes kept flicking to Maya's screen, trusting her numbers more than his instincts now. Thermal levels holding, Sarah reported. Oxygen reserves stable. Ground Control's voice crackled through the restored communications. Odyssey 7, we read your telemetry. Confirm status. Ground Control, we had catastrophic propulsion failure. Hayes's voice was steady now. Dr. Chen implemented an emergency override system. We're correcting trajectory. Silence from Ground Control. Then, confirm an unauthorized override system. Maya tensed. Unauthorized. The word could end her career. Hayes looked at her, something shifting in his expression. Negative Ground Control. An innovative emergency protocol that saved 8 lives. Requesting full engineering review upon landing. The cabin erupted. Crew members who'd whispered about her hours ago now stared with awe. With gratitude. With shame, the vessel continued its correction. 5 minutes, 3. The trajectory aligned perfectly with Maya's calculations. Earth stopped looming and returned to its proper place. Below them, beautiful, survivable. Trajectory locked, Hayes announced. We're stable. We're safe. The cabin exploded with relief. Tears, laughter, disbelieving joy. Sarah grabbed Maya in a fierce hug. Dr. Peterson shook her hand, words failing him. Hayes approached last. He extended his hand, and Maya saw everything in his face. The pride that almost killed them, the recognition that came too late, the gratitude that couldn't erase the earlier dismissal. "You saved us." "Dr. Chen," his voice was quiet, "I should have listened the first time you spoke." Maya accepted his hand. "Yes, Commander. You should have." The acknowledgement hung between them. Not forgiveness, not yet, but truth, finally spoken aloud. Around them, the crew buzzed with questions about her system. How it worked, where she'd learned, why it wasn't standard protocol. Maya answered them all, her voice growing stronger. Her research hadn't just worked. It had proved itself under conditions that separated theory from reality. And everyone here would remember. The vessel hummed, stable and sure. Maya returned to her seat, exhaustion crashing over her. Through the viewport, Earth turned peacefully. They would make it home, after all. Landing day arrived with perfect weather. The vessel touched down to thunderous cheers from ground crew. Media vans lined the perimeter, cameras tracking their exit. Maya stepped onto solid ground, her legs shaky. The royal blue flight suit felt different now. Not like armor, but like skin she'd earned the right to wear. The space company CEO waited on the tarmac, flanked by engineers and executives. He approached Maya directly, bypassing Hayes. "Dr. Chen, on behalf of the company, thank you. Your quick thinking and innovative solution prevented a tragedy." Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Maya stood straight, letting the moment sink in. "More importantly," the CEO continued, "we're implementing your override system as standard protocol on all future flights, and we'd like to discuss your leadership on our next deep space mission." The words took a moment to register. Leadership, not specialist. Not assistant command. Hayes stepped forward. "Sir, if I may, Dr. Chen deserves more than thanks. She deserves an apology. From all of us." He turned to Maya, cameras capturing everything. "I let bias cloud my judgment. I dismissed expertise because I didn't want to see it. That almost cost 8 lives." The tarmac went quiet. Maya met his eyes, saw genuine remorse there. It didn't erase what happened, but it was something. "Thank you, Commander." She kept her voice level. "I hope other qualified people won't have to save lives before being heard." The reporters erupted with questions. The CEO ushered them toward the debriefing area, but crew members kept stopping Maya, thanking her, requesting to work with her again. Dr. Peterson approached last. "I should have backed you stronger when I reviewed your data. I saw the validity, but I chose comfort over courage." Maya nodded. "These admissions mattered. They changed nothing and everything at once." 3 weeks later, she stood in mission control wearing Commander's white. The promotion came with public fanfare and private satisfaction. The crew roster for the deep space mission included several familiar names, including Hayes, who'd requested to serve under her command. Maya looked at Earth on the main screen. Her journey from dismissed specialist to mission commander happened because she'd prepared for the moment no one else believed would come. And when it did, she'd chosen to save them anyway. Dr. Okafor would have been proud. Maya stood alone in the training facility observatory. Stars stretched endlessly above her, close enough to touch. She thought of that moment at Gate 7, the security officer's doubt, the whispers, the weight of being questioned before speaking. She thought of the cabin filled with alarms, Hayes's desperate eyes, the choice to help people who'd dismissed her. Competence had always been hers, but justice required them to witness it under pressure, required the system to fail so her solution could matter. The unfairness of that burned, even in victory. But somewhere a young black girl watched the news coverage, saw Maya's face, saw what was possible when expertise met preparation, when doubt met proof. That girl wouldn't have to wonder if space was for people like them. She would know. Maya touched the mission patch on her sleeve, now Commander's white instead of royal blue. The same symbols, different meaning. Earned not through permission, but through excellence that couldn't be ignored. Her mother's words echoed differently now. Let your work speak louder than their doubts. But Maya had learned something else. Sometimes your work has to scream, has to save lives, has to prove itself in crisis because quiet competence isn't always enough. The stars waited above. Challenges waited ahead. But Maya Chen had stopped waiting for permission to be brilliant. She turned from the window, ready for whatever came next. Let them doubt you, she whispered to the young scientists who would follow. Just make sure you're ready when they finally listen.